Hello, how you guys doing tonight? Hopefully everyone can hear me all right. Let me know if you can or can't. But hello, hello, hello. How you doing, Nana, Linda, Debbie, Glinda, Deborah, Lynn, Matt, Leonard, Kevin, Christine, Lynn, Karen, Dennis, Deborah. How you guys all doing today? Hi, Mackenzie. Hi, Tia. Hopefully everyone's having a good day, even though it's not such a good day out there. I mean, let's be honest, Biden's speech today was a little bit underwhelming. Well, a lot of the way underwhelming. If you look at anything that was truthful out of it, I mean, Putin says he's withdrawing partial troops, but at the same time, false flag events, talking about this all false flag shit is just garbage to me at this point. Let's be honest. False flag events are just BS. It's just a way for them to say, oh, it's not our fault that Russia attacked. The U.S. is trying to use that, of course, as a means of leverage, which they are accomplishing in the U.S. Biden, of course, saying false flag this, false flag that. So if we now put missiles in to Ukraine or as a defense system, which he did not rule that out. He said we will not put offensive missiles or missiles to attack Russia. Now, our defensive missile system only takes 5 minutes to switch out the tip of the warhead. Literally 5 minutes, and they don't have to remove them from the tubes. They literally reach in, switch out the warhead. It's now a nuclear-armed tactical missile. And it can easily hit Russia from that range, or the heart of Russia, within Ukraine. So that's a big problem that we're facing is where is the president actually telling the truth, or is it the truth not going to be told to the American people at all? It is a scary situation being involved with Russia right now, and such a tight situation. But the withdrawal of troops that Putin says he confirmed, of course, isn't even a number of troops. It isn't even a significant number of troops of what they're actually there. It's the great distraction. It exactly is. They're in cahoots. It's a joke. It's when are they're going to just take out the civilization and just let people go behind? I mean, that's what's happening right now. The U.S. putting up false flags by saying, yeah, we're giving Ukraine tactical nukes. It's ridiculous. Because we didn't put missiles there, we gave them missiles. It's ridiculous. It is a joke of everything that's being said. Nobody's getting the truth. Our government, of course, is just feeding us whatever they want to feed us as propaganda. And we're taking it. We're taking the propaganda they're feeding us. Day in and day out. If we look at what's happening all around the world, I mean, the world is in chaos. We're in chaos as a country. Ottawa's police chief resigned today. Because of the protests, because of the way they're treating protesters. I mean, this is ridiculous. Canada, the way they're treating protesters in Canada, the police chief resigns. It's against their constitution, and he knows it. How many things are they violating our constitution left and right? They don't care about America anymore. What they care about is their political futures. Their political futures are the only things that matter at this time. And it's sad because we have a lot of stuff ahead of us and a lot of stuff going on in the world. I don't know if anybody's noticed grocery store shelves starting to go more bare than they were before. Certain things missing that you never had a problem finding before. You got teachers abusing students and getting away with it because they're woke. Woke teachers doing wrong or treating kids like nothing. Sad day in America. Sad day in America. You guys want to call in? The number here, of course, is 954 418 2435. That number is 954 418 2435. We'd always welcome you guys calling at any time. Freedom Convoy has been more than peaceful. It has been embracing. Everybody has been embraced by the Freedom Convoy. And it's sad. The Russia-Ukraine crisis is becoming ridiculous at this point. I mean, every time we look at things, we look at U.S. sending more planes. There was a C-17 heading there earlier out of the military. And it landed earlier today during a de-escalation, supposedly. A de-escalation. It's just that. It's that. There's reportedly at least 150,000 troops there. We know that there's more than that, though, because the 40,000 that were joining them. It's just one thing after another. Biden sits there and says things that he has no clue what's going on, honestly. He looks into his interview from the Super Bowl, the interview that happened during the Super Bowl, stating that we're not going into Ukraine no matter what. And then we are going in if something like this or this happens. I mean, right now, there is actual cyber attacks happening in Ukraine. They don't know where they're originating from. But they're happening right now. And that's not a question of where or if. It's a question of they are happening. What are we going to do about it? It's just that. Castro is introduced. Oh, that's definitely not true, but it's funny. It is funny. Yeah. Let us know what's happening in the state where you're stocking or where you're shopping. Stores very well stocked. That's great. I want to see how stores are doing out there around the country. And if anybody wants to call in, like I said, and talk about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and what they think is actually happening, I think it's a whole false flag operation to begin with. I think it's a point to get us into war as America, to get the U.S. into war so they could blame the mass casualties or mass losses on a war. I mean, we'll be facing the effects of it here in the United States no matter what happens at this point. Inflation is through the roof. Markets destabilized everywhere. Yeah, no baby formula. Yeah, that's what I'm facing here. Is you can't. Even when you go to Walmart.com and try to place an order, 90% of the stuff out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. For what point? Well, that's a good question. For what point? New World Order requires the population to drop by at least 70%. According to Agenda 21, 70% of the population at least would have to be wiped out. And those are facts we have to face. Those are facts we have to face as Americans. If anybody has read about the Agenda 21 or the New World Order, they would see that. I mean, it's obvious. You're going to sell NFTs? What are you going to sell NFTs of, Ronnie? Ronnie boy? Like this kind of stuff. No, I don't think it's NATO having anything to do with this. Yeah. That's what I think that is going to happen. I think they're going to be blocking us from incoming voting, blocking us from doing anything else. And I do believe Biden is trying to escalate the U.S. to a war. That's without a question. I mean, whether you believe that or not, that's your truth or your belief. But if you look at what's actually happening, I cannot honestly say I believe that he is trying to keep us out of a war at this point. I cannot say that. You look at what's actually happening around the world. You have family that's being deployed. Bridget, when will they issue the deployment orders? Because supposedly, everything's calming down over there, but yet we have more people being deployed. I know of people being deployed in the next couple of weeks. But that's the question: is why are they lying to American people, saying, "Oh, everything's going good and everything's this and everything's that," if they're still actively seeking people for deployment? If they're not trying to escalate the situation, then why would they be actively seeking people for deployment? Ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It is beyond ridiculous at this point. But it's one thing after another. This is the society we live in. We live in a society where they can say what they want to say, do what they want to do, and nobody can do anything about it. Yeah, war equals no midterms. Well, you still have midterm elections, but nobody changes politicians. Nobody votes for any different party. They always let the sitting party stay during a war. I don't think Biden. I don't think Putin is playing at all. I think what's happening is we're getting a lot of false flag information, Billy. I think the U.S. government is giving us false information and giving false information to the world. I think it's totally reasonable that Putin does not want missiles that could hit Moscow within range of him. That's 100% acceptable. We do not want missiles that can hit D.C. within range of D.C. on the ground. We're talking about putting a missile defense system in Ukraine that could be easily retipped with nuclear warheads. I mean, literally 5 minutes, not even taking them out of the tubes and retip them to nuclear warheads. That's what we're talking about. And Putin has every right to stand up against that. Because here as the United States, we would do the same exact thing. We would not allow that to happen under any circumstances. Callbacks are the worst, Brian. Callbacks are the worst. And I feel bad for anybody that served in the military in the last 10 years because chances are they got the callback. Under 35, I think it's 35 now. 25. It's just sad. This is the sad state of affairs we're in here in America because we only get information when they want us to. They only give us information when they want us to. And if they don't want us to see what's going on, we'll never know. We will honestly never know. The Ukraine president doesn't seem too worried because he'll just run. He was placed there by the U.S. That's another problem. We should have never got involved in Ukraine in the first place, ever. When Ukraine was trying to overthrow their president that's sitting now, that's been duly elected according to yada yada and BS. Oh boy. The administration is creating more than a mess. It's destroying America. It's ripping it apart piece by piece. We look every day. Yeah, we did stand up when they wanted to build missile silos in Cuba. Now we want Russia to allow us to place missile or intercept missiles in Ukraine that can be retipped to nuclear warheads in under 5 minutes and fire directly and hit Moscow. That's what we want Russia or Putin to allow. Yeah, they're not understanding Putin's point of view at all. They don't care about Putin's point of view at this point, and that's the biggest problem we're facing. No, Joe, you're too old to be called back. They don't call people back after they turn to ash. Oh, but it's sad. It is a sad day. And I'm going to be hearing this. It is a sad day because no, Trump only gets briefed if he's a visor, the sitting president. You can still fight. You can still hold your own, right, Joe? That's all that matters. Not as good as you once were, but you're good once as you ever were. So, yeah, that's exactly what Putin's concerned with, Billy, and that's what I'm talking about. That's the reason I think all this false flag stuff coming from our president and our or the administration we have here in the United States is bullshit. They're trying to set the stage to move in and push harder on Russia than they ever have. And Putin should be concerned with that because our missile defense system is made. Our missile defense system that the United States has designed, even that's in Israel, is made for those warheads, the actual detonation device, to be able to retip at any time. And it literally takes 5 minutes to do. So they could switch it out for a nuclear tip within 5 minutes and fire a missile and hit downtown Moscow with a nuclear missile, and nobody would know it was happening. And that's why Putin's is concerned, and he should be. If it was the U.S., we wouldn't even allow the conversation to continue. It's not okay. I will say it is not okay for NATO to have missiles all over Russia's borders and then not expect Russia to be okay against that. Yeah, they flagged me for a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, Russia and Ukraine is just a distraction at this point. But the problem is, it's a distraction to start something bigger. If we claim Russia did a false flag operation in Ukraine, and we start a war with Ukraine or with Russia, which Biden could easily do at this point because he's been pushing this false flag on the American people for months or for weeks now. And for weeks now, he's been pushing this false flag information, saying, "Oh, Russia's going to put a false flag out there. Russia's going to do a false flag this, false videos, false that." None of it has happened. But when it does happen, yeah, Many got flagged for asking how my daughter was. It was ridiculous. This false flag that Biden's talking about is a false flag I think we are portraying to the world, and we are portraying to our citizens in the United States. And people are dropping like flies now. That's something I can't even get to start to discuss yet. But nobody's counting those numbers anymore. Those numbers aren't even accurate anymore, and they don't know why. Because they're no longer sick, or they're just accidental, just random natural causes. That's what they're stating. Look at the false flags, though. He keeps calling Russia on false flags, all these false flags, but yet they're pushing false information in our media. They're pushing false information in our media. Yeah. Why should America trust the guy at the State Department who was involved in the Clinton Spygate? That's a whole nother freaking issue that we're going to talk about. This Clinton situation is getting out of control. I mean, according to this report that's came out, there's so much wrong with the way our country's been operating. And it's been operating worse and worse. Literally. Yeah. It's just ridiculous out there. People are dropping because of both, Jeff. That's all I'm going to say. Because of both. We're seeing these being faced with this every day as American citizens, and it's ridiculous at this point. It is truly ridiculous. How they try to stand up and say, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is what should have happened. I don't know if you guys seen today. A man was actually charged in the Capitol riot situation. That was obviously an extreme left winger. He went to the Capitol. He posted on his Twitter feed and everything that he was smoking out the Capitol and all this other stuff, and that he didn't believe in our government. He never has. I mean, he's against America altogether. But yet, he's the one that attacked the police officer. He's the one that hit the police officer with a fire extinguisher. But the mainstream media, where are they talking about it today? Do you see anything showing up in mainstream media? Anything? Yeah. Solomon has been saying the U.S. has evidence Russia is going to do a false flag. No evidence whatsoever. But yet, if they keep repeating that, Billy, if they keep repeating that in the media cycle, false flag over and over again, and 100 times over, then people start believing it because that's how you get indoctrinated. You hear false flag enough, you believe that there is a false flag. You believe that Russia is doing a false flag operation, when really the U.S. is doing that just by making you believe that. Sorry, that was, I don't know how you got in, but the freaking Hillary BS is BS. It is ridiculous. If any country or anybody else was spying and got caught spying, and the level and the scrutiny that she was using the government to spy on a sitting president, yeah, accusing of a false flag is the false flag accusations, because then they can claim anything that comes out, that anything that happens. We put missiles there. Russia can say, "Oh, well, U.S. is putting missiles there," and then they can say, "No, that's a false flag." Yeah, Watergate's a joke compared to what's happened. Watergate is a joke compared to what's happening. If anybody else was involved, if any outside sources were involved, and there was no Hillary Clinton involved in this whole situation of spying on Trump, spying on a candidate that much, going into their servers, hacking White House servers when he was a sitting president. If anybody did that, they would be in a hole in the ground. They would be in a hole in the ground. Yeah, the Durham release. Instead, it was just a distraction from January 6th. Yeah, it's ridiculous because we see this every day. Distraction, distraction, distraction. Yeah, Russia has every right to say that, though, Patrick, at this point. Oh, Patrick, you don't understand. They want to put a missile defense system in Ukraine on the border that could hit Moscow. And then that missile defense system can also be used offensively by retipping with nuclear warheads and firing directly on Moscow, within range of Moscow. That's how it's a security threat to Russia. It is a huge security issue to Russia. Getting the truth at the border is going to be pretty much impossible. The problem is, many Ukrainians want to be Russian. A lot of people that live in Ukraine, actual citizens of Ukraine, they want to be part of Russia. Oh, Russia won't stand if Poland wanted to do that. Poland said they won't do that. They don't want to do that. They don't want to be involved in a war. That's why Ukraine's being used as America's pawn. And Ukraine is much closer to Moscow than Poland is by far. Okay. Well, I mean, by great distances. I mean, and we go to Kiev, even outside of Kiev, even if you go to northern Moscow, let's say you would go to, I'm trying to think of a city you guys will know. Let's say you go to Skolska, which is right on the border, right off the EU 391. I mean, that's less than 200 miles from Moscow. Less than 200 miles from Moscow. Yeah. U.S. has no business sticking its nose in what's going on over there. And right now, they're just trying to stop Ukraine from becoming part of this. I mean, Belarus is its own free country right now, right? But yet they still are side with Moscow on everything. Belarus does. Now you got Lithuania and Latvia and Estonia. Now they're all old Russian country. They were all part of Russia at one point. Belarus, Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine, Belarus. That was all part of Russia at one point. We wouldn't want Russia to be able to be within 200 miles of our capital of our country, of DC, having nuclear weapons within 200 miles. Yeah, 600 miles closer to Moscow than Poland. No, it's about 400 something miles closer. It's ridiculous though because people don't understand this. People do not understand what's happening. I understand where Russia's coming from 100%. And I am 100% for America. But when I see stuff like this, the police chief quit today, Debbie. Police chief quit over the arresting the protesters. Bullshit, that's a whole nother fucking thing. I'm gonna get in. That'll be another topic for a day. We're not at a crisis situation because our government wants to force it into that. Crisis situations that our government wants to force us into. And people think, well, Russia's a giant place. Well, most of the eastern side of Russia isn't used. It's tundra. It's bad. I believe Russia wouldn't even be there if it wasn't a question of we were. Here's what happened. I'm going to tell you guys because it wasn't discussed publicly. Russia did not build up any troops in the Ukraine's border besides back in 2000. I think it was 2014. Last time they were there, when we tried to put missiles in Ukraine, they did it, and then they took Crimea. They have not been back since. Putin got word that we were trying to talk Ukraine into putting missiles back into Ukraine, a missile defense system for NATO, back into Ukraine as part of a deal of joining NATO. And then Russia sent troops to Ukraine's border. What would you do if you were in that situation? I mean, come on, common sense. You heard that somebody was going to put missiles that could hit your capital within 200 miles of your capital. Yeah, the whole thing is BS. Yeah, it's like Russia being it's like Russia being in Niagara Falls. If anybody was Putin, they would be pissed. If you were a Russian citizen, you would be pissed. If we get involved with a hostile exchange with Russia, nuclear war is imminent. Russia's already said if NATO or the U.S. were to step into Ukraine, nuclear weapons would be used. Russia's already made that clear that they will defend themselves with nuclear armament. Russia has already made that clear. And that's something we're going to face either way. Yeah, Debbie, I've been seeing articles too that Trump somebody wants Trump to become Speaker of the House. And he would be Speaker of the House if he was put in that position. But he's not running for a position in the House right now, so we don't know. Sanctions are not the issue here. That is a very, very scary thought. It is very, very scary because this is really what's happening in America. I mean, then you got North Korea, of course, going at it with everybody. It's just sad. It is sad. The state of our country and the way we're trying to push everybody around is ridiculous. I mean, North Korea could easily hit Japan right now with nuclear missiles. China wants to take freaking Taiwan. I mean, come on. At what point do we say, hey, enough is enough, you know? We're going to stand up for our allies. We're going to stand up and be the people we need to be. Just sad. It's just sad. No, it began with the U.S. trying to convince Ukraine to put missile deterrent systems, which could be repacked with nuclear warheads within 5 minutes, inside of Ukraine before Russia did that. It's sad because this is the problem. The what's actually being said and what's actually being told is not really the facts. Yeah, never agree, or nobody's agreed not to join NATO. Only time will happen when, yeah, mutual assured destruction. You are correct, James. Russia attacks Ukraine, China attacks Taiwan, Iran attacks Saudi Arabia, and North Korea attacks the South all simultaneously. I could see that happening, Billy, because if war breaks out between Russia and anybody right now, the rest are going to try to get their piece of the pie at the same time. It's going to be a domino effect. It's going to be pieces of pie falling everywhere. Everybody's going to try to get their piece of pie really quick. And whether it happens or not isn't going to be a question, because by the end of it, nobody will be left to talk about it. We won't be left to have this conversation. Yes, Biden administration started by trying negotiations with Ukraine about joining NATO and putting missile defense systems in Ukraine. China doesn't have to backdoor us. They're already coming through our front door. They own more property. They own our supply chain, basically, here in the United States. And that's a poor situation to be in. That is a terrible situation to be in. We're looking at countries that own us. I mean, we're facing $4 per gallon easily. Biden, of course, says diplomacy continues, but Russian invasion of Ukraine is still possible. That makes no sense unless you want to keep leading on. It's just we don't have investors buying property in other countries. Our country's bank broke. I don't think you realize it. California is at $5.20 a gallon. That's ridiculous. Yeah, free crack pipes for anybody that wants to go to the health department and get a safe smoking kit. Okay, they're not giving out. The administration's not giving out free crack pipes. That $30 million is going to fund safe drug use, which is needles and everything else. But one of the safe drug use things is a safe smoking kit that includes meth pipes, not crack pipes. Technically, they're meth pipes, or glass globes. But it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And Einstein was right. Once nuclear became an option, World War III is never going to be. Yeah, pipes. Biden gets his pipes free from Daddy now. Yep. That's ridiculous. You're burning wood and you're over $500 a month for electric this month? That is ridiculous. I wonder if they even sent anybody out if they just faked the meter or estimated the meter. Let's put it that way. Our country's being destroyed at every turn. Every time we turn around. I'll be praying for world peace too because I don't want to see a war at all. There are protesters out there still everywhere in Canada, which is awesome to see. Truck protesters still out there, even though the border crossings are no longer blocked. Protesters are still out there. Yes, the kit list stems with bulbs. The stems with bulbs are called glow pipes. They're used for crack and meth. It's ridiculous. It is freaking ridiculous. Oh my goodness. It is ridiculous. And we're not creating our own products anymore. Even like we were producing oil again, and we were becoming a world dominating oil supplier. But Biden took office because we want to go green. We had to stop producing oil because that would be so bad. If they're stimulating the economy by raising the price of goods, that's not stimulating the economy because the average person is being affected more than the rich. In order to stimulate the economy, to really move money around the economy, you have to increase the prices of goods that only the rich purchase. Yeah, I've looked at the safe smoking list. It's ridiculous. It's sad state in America. That's all I can say tonight. Um, Even wholesale prices are going up, adding to inflation woes for U.S. consumers. As wholesale prices keep going on the rise, now we will face higher rates in the grocery stores, higher rates on electricity, oil, natural gas, cars, and everything along the way. As we'll be facing these increases together, amongst many other things happening in our world. It is ridiculous at this point. The impacts we're having financially and globally because of us, because of this administration. And Hillary wants to run for president. Hillary wants to run for president. And I think that is just a ridiculous statement on its face. Why would she even be given the option? Why would she even be given an option to run? Should be in jail at this point. I mean, and then we have a woman that went to buy a truck in Texas, flew on an airplane with over $100,000 in cash. And you know what happened? The police seized it because she flew to Texas with over $100,000 to buy a semi truck. Civil asset forfeiture is in full effect. Police are seizing anything they can and being told to in order to fund their departments at this point. Because the president decided to pull funding, the Congress decided to lower funding for police, which of course is affecting everyone. Durham's findings need to be prosecuted. Everything that came through on his report needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. It needs to happen. Faced with a lot of issues going on in the world, and we need to be able to stand up for our rights. Stand up for America. Because the airport you're allowed to fly with as much money as you want. You're allowed to fly with as much money as you want in the U.S. But the airport, you have to disclose it at the airport. That's not a question. So they knew she had the money. When she landed in Texas, they actually decided to stop her and question her about the money. And she had all the legitimate information about the money and where it was going and everything. And they still decided to push charges. They still decided to take the money, or not charge her. They didn't charge her with a crime. There was no crime charge whatsoever. They just seized her assets. They just seized her assets at that point. I'm not sure if somebody tried calling the channel. If you did, I will call you back. Please let me know. I do see I missed 2 calls. It's sad. You're seeing this stuff happen in America. Yeah, they have been authorized for decades. Ever since the war on drugs happened, that's when authorization started for civil asset forfeiture. Civil asset forfeiture originally came about to seize drug money. That's what it came about for. But the way it's written is anybody could be, their money and assets can be seized. Your bank account can be seized for any reason. The government doesn't have to prove it, you committed a crime. Instead, you have to prove that you didn't. You have to go through multiple steps in court, multiple stages, and it costs a ridiculous amount of money. That is wrong. But that's what's happening today. That's not the Patriot Act. That's part of the, Steve's aka Steele. That was part of the war on drugs that Biden in 1994 said we're not using enough of. We need to make this law better. Believe it or not, or 1991. 1991. Sorry. Biden was actually in Congress standing up to make sure this passed, because before it was only allowed to be used if criminal activity was, or charged with criminal activity. The forfeiture, seizure could only happen. But when Biden took this and pushed it further, no, Biden pushed it further in 1991 when he sat in front of the Congress and he said this law needs to be expanded because we're not seizing enough assets. We're not using this law to its integrity. There's actually a speech of Biden actually saying this in Congress. Biden, the same guy that's in office now. Yeah, Canada just did it. Oh, which is ridiculous. But we got to stand strong and stand tall. We are great. We are Americans, and we can make it through this together. Definitely thank you guys for being here with us tonight. And of course, if you can afford to donate, please do. We are looking to raise more money, or as much money as we can, for Easter and for truckers out there. Still protesting and fighting the good fight as protesters are gathering around the world. We will have new merchandise, of course, in a separate store that is going directly to back them. Oh my goodness. God bless you guys. Stay safe, please. Stay safe. Yeah, I try to come on every night, but like the last 2 nights, the reason I wasn't on Sunday night, I take care of my grandfather. He's 96 now. Um, and I had no nurse Sunday, so it was kind of hard between that and no nurse, and then take care of him overnight as well. So try to come on as often as I can, give you guys updates of what's actually happening out there. But it's getting ridiculous out there. It's same shit every day now. But now we're getting a little bit more into the truth. Yeah, he's definitely got stories. Definitely. But good night and God bless you guys. God bless America. We can take America back and we can make America strong again. See you guys tomorrow night around 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Good night. God bless.